Alright, so welcome fellow YouTubers. My name is Mike, this is the MDH Automotive channel, and obviously today we're talking about my 1987 Buick Regal Turbo Limited. Say that 3 times. Now you actually probably could. Now there she is. Come in a little closer and we'll do a quick walk around. The car is exceptionally clean. It's got a few dings around it, some that I'd like to have popped out eventually. But I just had the car detailed last week, and you know, it's an 80s paint job, so it came out as nice as I could possibly ask an 80s paint job to come out. But like you can see, there's a few little dings there, and there's a few around the car, but overall the car is exceptionally clean. Take you for a walk through on the interior. You can see the interior is just like brand new. It really is like brand new. Door panels, everything is in really good shape. You guys can see from this side, everything is in exceptional shape. It does have an aftermarket oil pressure gauge, and then up here it's got the water temperature gauge, and then the turbo boost gauge, and then there is a stock turbo boost gauge on the dash panel, which I'll show you guys when we take this thing for a drive. But everything works, everything is just super clean, really well cared for. You can see under the hood, this thing is like new. It just looks great. I mean, the way Lynn did everything, Lynn being the previous owner, he just really took care of this car, and actually just took immaculate care. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I think I'm going to do more talking about the car as we're driving. Okay, so I've talked about this before, and in my opinion there are just very few cars worth owning between the years of basically 1974 and about 1997, 98, in that area. Cars were just kind of anemic at that point in time. Well, there were some cool cars, there just wasn't anything performance oriented. Now there are a few cars from the 80s that I think are cool. Certainly I would love to own a DeLorean. I think they're very cool cars. They were not good cars. They were not high quality cars. They were not good performance cars, good driving cars, but I believe that John DeLorean was onto something when he started doing his design and manufacturing that car. It's just unfortunately he never got off the ground. He went about it the wrong way, but that's entirely another video. One car of the 80s was definitely the Grand National and the Turbo Regals. You know, 90s we did have the Typhoon, the Cyclone, we did have the ZR1 Corvette, and we had the 94 through 96 Impala SS. And again, those are completely separate videos. I could do videos on each individual car, but today we're going to talk about the Grand National and the Turbo Regals. Buick had the bright idea to basically put a turbocharger on a V6, and it really hadn't been done at that point in time. Like I said, this is the 80s, so most cars were fairly anemic, and they were producing some pretty respectable horsepower. These V6s were actually blowing off the V8s. 1987 was the last year that Buick did this, and then the Grand National Turbo Regal ended up dying, but they did go out with a bang. They actually made the GNX that year, which I believe they made like 547 of those cars, somewhere in that area. So they went out with a bang, and that is the rarest Turbo Regal that you can find out there. That definitely, if you can find one for a good price, you should pick it up because it is a collector car. But that car was in the neighborhood of around 300 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. They rated them a little lower from the factory. They actually underrated these cars just a bit, but the GNX was so fast in 1987 that it actually blew off a twin turbo Callaway Corvette. 4 races down the quarter mile, and one of the races the driver of the GNX actually had his wife and son in the vehicle and still blew the Corvette away. So these were pretty impressive cars. Now this one being the last year, it was rated at like 245 horsepower, I think 355 pound-feet of torque. And they were very impressive. These were among the fastest production cars you could buy in 1987, and it was really a great concept. Now a lot of people still don't like the V6. They're like, gotta have a V8 or what have you, but you know, this car is very docile, very muted, it's very quiet, but it runs very well. Now I feel like this car, because it does have a cold air intake, it has a performance chip, and it has a catback exhaust on it, I feel like the car probably should run a little bit better than it actually does. Don't get me wrong, definitely when the turbo spools and it kicks in, it definitely sets you back on the seat and goes pretty well. But I feel like there's more there. I feel like there's more, just a little tweaking and tuning, and I would love to find someone around here or somewhere within a few hours that I could take the car to, have them doing a little tweaking and tuning on it and get a little bit more out of it. The car only has 40,000 original miles, so it really has a lot of life left in it. Now, as you can see on this one, it does have the GNX wheels on it, which I think make the car look so much better. It came with the stock wheels and tires, which I still have, and they look good, but this just makes the look completely. I do want to have the windows tinted in this car. I think that'll kind of complete the look of it. But other than that, maybe a little tweaking and tuning, I really don't have any plans for this car. I like it the way it is. I love the turbo. I love the boost when it comes on to boost. And of course, I love that sound when the blow off valve. It's a lot of fun. It's a cool car. Definitely it was a bucket list car. When I saw this car and found out the details about it, I thought, you know what, I've got to buy it. I think I should continue this conversation, and more specifically about the vehicle, while we're driving. What do you think? So unlike the Camaro, this car we can have a conversation while we're driving. It's very quiet, very subdued. Being a 6-cylinder, even though it has a catback exhaust on it, it's pretty mellow and pretty quiet actually. And now we're getting behind a slow-moving truck, so bear with me. One thing nice about this car is it's very comfortable. This is a car that I could take on a nice long trip and be very comfortable in it. I mean, it's a Buick. The air conditioning does not blow cold. It does need a recharge. I'm gonna try to get Jesse to get in and figure out where the leak is and get it recharged. So the weather's starting to get cooler, so it's not a huge priority, but I'd like to get it done just to know that that project is completed. Now, I really wanted a Grand National. That was the car that I was wanting. They look so good, all blacked out, and just really kind of a sinister look. And I wasn't really thinking along this car. Truthfully, I didn't even really know very much about the Turbo Regals, what they were, what they were all about. But if you look back in my videos, I did a video where I went with my buddy Erwin over to a Shelby Experience and a car show, and he said that we were going to go over and meet his friend Lynn, and Lynn had a TR. And when he said TR, truthfully, I was thinking like Triumph or something like that. I was like, okay, cool. So when we got there and Lynn showed me this car, I was like, oh, okay. And started looking at it and putting everything together and going, okay, Turbo Regal, same as the Grand Nationals. And it turns out with this one being a limited, it is the second most rare Turbo Regal out there. They only made 1,035. The only one more rare, obviously, is the GNX. So, you know, Lynn and I are talking throughout the day, and Lynn says, yeah, I'm thinking about selling the car. And so I say, okay, well, what are you thinking? So he shoots me a price, and we ended up trading phone numbers and talking back and forth about it. And so finally I said, okay, you know, I want to come take a look at it. I went over, I looked at it. He had already shot me his best price, so it really wasn't a lot of negotiation. The only negotiation we had to do was as far as extra parts, because Lynn has a lot of extra parts. So I definitely wanted these wheels. He had the stock wheels on. I got these wheels, and I got some other extra parts, and he's got more that I will probably end up buying off of him in time. He just like catalytic converters and just stuff that you probably are going to be hard-pressed to find he's got. So I do like that, and I probably will end up purchasing that stuff down the road. What I was really amazed by with this car was how clean it was. Even underneath. Eddie and I went to look at it, crawled around underneath it, and the car is immaculate. I mean, like new immaculate. He kept incredible service records. He has a book where he wrote down when he got the car, the mileages he changed the oil, what he did on what date, what impressions he had of the modification. I mean, he's got a full notebook on just stuff that he did. And the guy is very meticulous about his car, so it really impressed me how meticulous he was. Now, like I said, I think the car could use a little tweaking and tuning. I think it could use a little bit of help because it moves pretty well, but it seems like it operates at its best at around three-quarter throttle. It seems like above that you really don't notice anything more, and I almost tend to want to think maybe it needs more fuel, maybe the fuel pump's not keeping up or what have you. But let's see, we got some. So I mean, it picks up okay, and it's building boost. There's about 10 pounds of boost, and you know, it's okay. And I didn't step into it all the way, but I don't know, it just feels like it should have a little bit more. It just feels like it should run a little harder than this. We get really spoiled with these new cars. So this is nothing compared to like my Corvette or my GT500 or the Scat Pack or even the Camaro. But I have to remember to think about this car for what it is. And what it was in 1987 was very impressive. And it actually does pretty well. Like I said, it's nothing compared to new cars nowadays, but for what it is and the time frame and everything like that, it actually doesn't do too bad. So, a little spot here, so we'll step into it after we get across these bumps and I can kind of show you. It was about 85, 90 miles an hour roughly. And that's one thing about these cars, they have an 85 mile an hour speedometer, so it's really easy to bury it. But I mean, you heard we got second, spun a little bit in first, so it's not bad. Okay, so as with any other turbo car, the best way to get a good launch is to build some boost. So hit the brake, start building some boost. There's a wheel spin. Smoke, and away we go. There's 75. See, it just kind of, I feel like it falls short right there. Just buried the speedometer. I just feel like it kind of falls short, right? I don't know, right around 70, 75. I feel like it kind of hesitates a little bit. I don't know if it's not getting enough fuel or what's happening, but it's something I'd like to have a look into. But the car is impressive. I mean, it's not the launch like the Typhoon being all-wheel drive. The Typhoon will launch very hard. It's amazing. This thing just wants to start spinning the tires. The Typhoon won't do that. The Typhoon just, it starts shaking, and you know that's when it's time to release the brake and let it go, and it goes. So, you know, both cars have their individual quirks and things like that, but yeah, this is a lot of fun. I really do enjoy this car, and like I said, it's just so clean, and it just shows. Now, it's definitely very 80s. I remember talking in another video about my mom having a 1978 El Camino, and the dash, the way everything's set up, reminds me so much of that vehicle. Very 80s in the way it's done, but I really enjoy this vehicle. I'm having a good time with it. Do I think it's going to be a forever vehicle? No, I don't. I'll end up trading it or selling it at some point in time. But again, like the GTO for right now, I am enjoying it. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. And I would assume that probably if you drove it like a decent person, you'd get pretty good mileage out of it. So a person could take this on a trip, go long distances, and be very comfortable. The sound system is actually not too bad considering it's from 1987. It's got an upgraded head unit, but as far as I know, the speakers are all stock, and it sounds pretty decent. It's quiet inside, it's comfortable, got plenty of room in the trunk, got room in the back seat for a couple people if you need to. So really nothing negative I can say about the car. Like I said, maybe with a little tweaking and tuning, we get a little bit more out of it, get it to run like it's supposed to run. But with the exception of that, I don't plan on changing anything to the car other than tinting the windows. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this video. If you like it, please do give me a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. If you are stopping by for the first time, definitely subscribe to this channel. Check out my other videos. Certainly share the channel with other people. P.O. Box and Instagram will be in the description below. And with that, God bless. Take care. Have a great day.